Welcome back to Eat Sleep Boxing Repeats YouTube channel. Delighted to be joined by Greg and Paul for another weekly preview. It is fight week. It is time for Boxer and Sky Sports to take centre stage. Richard Riakporhe returns to the ring and he's facing Fabio Turchi. Before we get started, we're going to put a link in the description of this video. For anyone who isn't a Sky customer, it's very easy to still purchase access to this fight, whether you're a Sky customer or not. I'll be putting a link in the description. Just give that a click if you'd like to watch the fight on Saturday night. However, gents, I think this is actually a very good fight. Fabio Turchi only lost one fight. That was to Tommy McCarthy. Richard Riakporhe has looked quite impressive since his return to the ring. But I think this is going to be a competitive fight. Greg, I know you've done a prediction video. We're releasing that this afternoon. Looking forward to watching that with everyone else. The question I've got for you guys is, Richard Riakporhe, he's fought Chris Smith, fought Tommy McCarthy, fought Dion Juma, won all of those fights. How tough is this fight compared to those fights? Greg, I'll go to you first.
Yeah, thanks, Elliot. I think stylistically, this is as tough as any of them. I watched, when I was prepping for the prediction video, I watched a good bit of Turchi. I watched the one that lost to Tommy McCarthy. And Elliot, that was just styles make fights. Someone who stands off Turchi is always going to give him problems because he likes to come forward and he pushes his shots a little bit. If you watch him when he jabs southpaw, he jabs but keeps pushing it and it almost doubles the impact of the shot. I'm trying to describe exactly what I mean, but when you push your shots, it's almost like pushing somebody's head back after you've hit them as well. So it looks better on the judge to the judges if obviously that's happening with his opponents. But I think it'll be a very difficult fight because if he's coming forward, and I think that Riakporhe has made good strides and stepped up the opposition well since he's come back. But this is definitely his toughest fight since he's come back, and it's on a par with McCarthy, Smith. So he's going to need to be ready, Elliot.
I think one interesting factor is that this fight was originally supposed to happen February, March, and then Turchi got injured. And I just wonder if Turchi hadn't got injured and he had fought in February or March, maybe if that might have come too soon for Riakporhe, because you said this is a really tough test. Yeah, Saturday night is the date. Paul, going to come to you next. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I can't really disagree in terms of what Greg's saying about the whole styles matchup. So I think stylistically, with him being a southpaw, Greg will know himself as well. You know, it's a southpaw loves fighting an orthodox fighter because 99% of the people they box are orthodox. But an orthodox fighter hates fighting a southpaw because only about 1% or 2% of the people they fight will be a southpaw. So it's a lot easier for a southpaw fighting an orthodox than an orthodox that is fighting a southpaw. So in terms of that, yeah, I can see it maybe causing a few problems early for Riakporhe, but I do have to say that I kind of disagree with the how tough I think this fight will be. I think that Jack Massey would beat Fabio Turchi. Tommy McCarthy did beat him. I think Chris Smith would knock him out. And Richard Riakporhe beat all of them. And I completely understand that I'm just going off names here rather than because everyone has a different style. And like Greg alluded to, the Tommy McCarthy fight, I remember that over in Italy. And it was just, you know, McCarthy boxed scared and won that night, basically on the back foot the whole time. And, you know, Turchi's known as a big puncher, but see, since his loss, I think he's been a wee bit gun shy. If you look at it on his resume, you know, he blew out a journeyman really early on. But other than that, both of his other fights have gone the distance. So he seems to be maybe lacking that belief and to pull the trigger again. And yeah, I think that if he's not going to pull the trigger against Richard Riakporhe, he's in big trouble. So yeah, I think that, okay, it is a decent enough fight and a decent name, probably around the European level. But I see Riakporhe passing it with flying colours.
Good stuff. I'm really looking forward to it. I think Richard Riakporhe is an exciting fighter. I think Turchi is a good competitor. And yeah, we will see. I think it's one that Riakporhe needs to kind of pass if he's going to get that well-timed shot in the next 12 months. Moving on swiftly, undercard fight of the week. Jermaine Brown looks to defend his English super middleweight title against Zach Chelli. For anyone who if anyone who's not too aware of these fighters, I think it's a fantastic clash of styles. Zach Chelli had a great knockout in his last fight. Jermaine Brown's a fantastic boxer. Jermaine Brown's undefeated. I think Zach Chelli's just got the one loss in his record to Cody Davis, which was a while back now. Both still very young. Good clash of styles. I'm finding this one hard to call personally. I'm not going to give a prediction, but I'm going to ask both of you for one. Paul, do you have a prediction for this fight?
I completely agree with you, Elliot. I think this is one where you're going to have to get splinters because we're sitting on the fence here. I'm sitting on the fence with you. To be quite honest, it's really difficult to call this one. I think what you said there about Jermaine Brown, he only has, he's undefeated, 12-0, but only 3 stoppages. So clearly, more of a back foot boxer, tidy. He's got a tidy game. Whereas with Zach Chelli's, over half of his wins have come by knockout, and they are both, they're both in their 20s. Zach Chelli's only 24, hasn't even reached his prime yet. Probably Jermaine Brown probably coming into his prime now. But yeah, I think it's a cracking fight. And you always say about the British title fights serving up crackers. The English title fights are always good fights too. We saw one with Sam Gilly not so long ago there, a couple of months ago. Tyler Denny and River Wilson Bent. I think a load of these English title fights do provide great matchups, and I think the same will happen here. If you really wanted me to make a prediction, I would probably edge it towards Zach Chelli, just because of the opposition he's been in with. He did lose to Cody Davis, but it was a close enough fight on the cards. He drew with Jack Cullen. He beat Umar Sadiq. I know that was only over a 3-rounder right at the start of his career, but if you look at Sadiq and who he's beaten since then as well, it is a good name to have on your record. So I'd probably just edge it towards Zach Chelli, but with no confidence whatsoever.
Yeah, interesting and well worthy of being chief support, I think. I would advise anyone to tune in if they can. Greg, what are your thoughts on this one? Really good fight, I think.
Very good fight, guys. I'm glad that Paul took some of the names away for me there. I was trying to remember the people that Ellie had fought, but he's covered them all off tremendously. I think it's a really good fight. I'm not going to sit in the fence, and I think if he stays out of trouble, Jermaine Brown will just be a little bit too sharp for him. I think that when some fighters know that they don't carry power, they can focus more on a game plan. He goes to the body really, really well, Jermaine Brown. I watched his last fight there. I watched Zach Chelli's last fight. If we're looking at guys' names on records, Jermaine Brown's got Dmitry Chudinov on his record. That's not a bad name. I mean, that guy took Chris Eubank Jr. 12 rounds. So stylistically, I agree. I think this is the fight of the night. I'm going to call it now. Zach Chelli's super tough. We spoke off camera, Elliot. We said that he puts a lot of power into his shots and things, every shot he throws. But for me, I think that it'll be very close, but I think Jermaine Brown will pick up early rounds and work the body. And I think that will see Zach Chelli just have a little bit too much to do later on in the fight. And I think we'll maybe just look at a close Jermaine Brown decision.
Interesting. No, really looking forward to it. And yeah, as I said, it's a classic, really good mix of styles. And the winner will go on to possibly try and fight for the British title. The loser will come again. But yeah, really good fight there. Cool. Third fight of the day to talk about. Jaime Munguia looks to go 40-0 against Jimmy Kelly. Jimmy Kelly fought for a world title against Liam Smith a few years ago and came up short. Jaime Munguia still, I think he's 25 years old, but it's his 40th fight on Saturday night. I don't think there's any question over who the strong favourite is here, who's likely to win. Keen to get your I'm going to ask you 2 questions, gents. Keen to get your general thoughts on this fight, what's going to happen. Secondly, I want to know, do you think Jaime Munguia can win a world title at middleweight in the next 12 months? Tough question, but he is 40-0. He's a former world champion. Can he do that? If you consider Erislandy Lara, Gennady Golovkin, Jamal Charlo are the world champions at that weight at the moment. Could you see him beating any of those guys in the next 12 months, or possibly someone else? Greg, I'll go to you first on this one.
Yeah, thanks, mate. Tough one. I don't have too many problems with what Munguia's doing. People forget Canelo, after like 35, 40 fights, was fighting Miguel Cotto's brother, so if he fights a good name, fights an okay name, I'm all right. That the kid's still 25, so I'll give him a break. Yeah, he's the favourite in the fight, and rightly so. With Golovkin stepping up to super middle to fight Canelo, Elliot, I think one reason and another, I think that'll be Golovkin's last fight. Okay. So I think Munguia will see that as an opportunity to fight for a vacant title. And, I'm going to go out one. I think he can pick up a world title at middleweight. I do. Is he the best? No, I think Andrade would give him fits. I think Lara would give him a lot of problems, but I think that's a close fight. And who was the other champion that we were talking about there? Was it Charlo?
Jamal Charlo. Yeah.
That's a tough fight as well.
Yeah.
Charlo might just be sharp for him. But yeah, I do fancy him to win a world title in the next 12 months, but because Golovkin's stepping up to fight Canelo.
It's an interesting one, because I feel like I don't know if at what point people are gonna. I do completely agree with you. He is still very young. I just wonder at what point are people going to get a bit frustrated if he doesn't step up soon, with having such a massive undefeated record, and there could be that expectation that he is going to fight a top level fighter soon. Because he's clearly got abundance of talent. I just think we want to see him in these fights, but I do see what you're saying. He is still very young.
I think I'm the only person that's not frustrated with Elliot, but I like to be different.
No, nothing wrong with that. Paul, going to go to you next. What are your general thoughts on this fight, and can you see Munguia winning a world title at middleweight in the next 12 months?
So to answer the question about can he win a world title, Greg took the words out of my mouth. I think what Greg said there about Golovkin stepping up, fighting Canelo in this trilogy, win, lose or draw, probably will be his last fight. He's over 40 now. I could see Munguia being the man to pick up that vacant title and get against whoever it may be, whoever to put him up against. This fight, however, I know Greg says he is only 25. I understand that he is very young, and Greg's giving him a break, but I don't really want to give him a break because it is quite annoying. I don't understand how you can have 39 fights, and he stepped up from super welterweight. He was the world WBO champion at super welterweight. WBO have the thing where when you step up, you automatically mandatory for the world title. Well, has he not fought for it yet? Like, do you know what I mean? It's really annoying. And honestly, if he's not going to fight for that, why is he fighting someone like Jimmy Kelly? Like, hats off to him. Jimmy Kelly, he's taking a risk here, and he's daring to be great, but he's not going to win. He's going to get ironed out inside 4 rounds, to be quite, let's be honest about it. But I want to see Munguia fight the likes of Lara, the likes of Murata, even Bekmel Kuzev, the other guy, I don't want to butcher his name, Zanabek Almakhanuli, I think you call him, isn't it?
Yeah.
Even a Eubank Jr., they're all really good fights. Fight them, don't fight Jimmy Kelly.
Yeah, that's the most annoyed I've seen you, Paul, since Tommy McCarthy lost to Chris Smith, by the way. But no, fair enough. I'm enjoying the strong opinions, lads, and we will see what happens on Saturday night and see what happens next for Munguia if he can get through Jimmy Kelly. Final under the radar fight this weekend. Daniel Dubois goes to Miami to face the undefeated Trevor Bryan. It's for the WBA regular title, and I know Dubois might get some stick if he wins that, and I can understand why. And I don't want to approach this as, can Daniel Dubois be Britain's next world champion? What's it going to be like with a belt around his waist? I want to focus more on the fight. And my question to both of you is, if you take aside the Joe Joyce fight, is this Daniel Dubois' toughest test so far? Because I think arguably it is, but I'm interested to see your opinions on that. And is he going to come through it? Trevor Bryan, maybe he's one of these fighters who's a bit of the unknown, because I couldn't name, without doing much research, I couldn't name any of his opponents. But he is, I think he's 22-0, can punch a bit like you'd expect him to be able to. So yeah, is Daniel Dubois going to come through Trevor Bryan in a straightforward fashion on Saturday? And is this his toughest test? Greg, going to go to you first again.
Thanks, mate. Yeah, aside from Joyce, it's his toughest test. I watched a bit of Trevor Bryan this morning. Good jab. Jabs well. He jabs in the rhythm. He's got a quite sharp. He doesn't move when he jabs, but it's like bam, bam, bam on his spot. I seen his opponent today. His head was like a pinball. It was just it's actually a bit better than I thought, but he's too slow. Elliot, he moves too slow. With Daniel Dubois, you need to be able to get out of the way because he's got, excuse the pun, he's got a dynamite right hand, hasn't he? I think Daniel Dubois will knock him out. I think it'll be the first half of the fight, but if he's not careful, that jab could give him problems because he's experienced. So, yeah, I think apart from Joyce, it's his hardest fight, but I see him coming through by knockout inside 6-7 rounds on Saturday.
Interesting. I think I'm looking forward to it because Trevor Bryan, he is undefeated. I know he's actually only 32. I think some people maybe think he's older than that, so he's not old for a heavyweight. He's not got the names on his record, but he's not like, there's nothing to say that he's not a bad fighter. Maybe he's just not not had the fights himself to give him that exposure. Paul, same questions to you, mate. What are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I completely agree with Greg and what he's saying about, it being the second toughest fight for Dubois. I do agree with that 100%. I was one of the few people that actually did think Joe Joyce was going to beat Dubois, but here I'm just super confident he is going to win, to be honest with you. To be honest, it's almost as if Greg's looked at my notes because I think it's going to be in the first six rounds as well. That's the way I see this fight going. Yes, I understand Trevor Bryan, he's 22-0, 15 KOs. Again, when I was looking all him up, I was expecting, I thought he was like 40 for some reason, but he's not. He's only 32. And when you meant, you're kind of right. He hasn't really fought anyone. The best two names on his resume are BJ Flores and Bermane Stiverne. So I'll say no more. But yeah, I think Daniel Dubois. I think he'll have to. I know you're saying about the jab, Greg, but I just think that Dubois maybe take a round to get used to it and see as soon as he lands, as soon as he lands a punch, even on the arms of Trevor Bryan, I think Trevor Bryan's going to be like, oh no, what did I get myself into? And I could see this one lasting maybe 3 or 4. If I was going to have to give a prediction, I would say probably Daniel Dubois in the 3rd or 4th round. But I see it being an easy night's work. But yes, in terms of the name, it's probably the second toughest opponent to Joe Joyce.
Yeah, it doesn't move, Paul. So if you're going to beat Daniel Dubois, you need to move. Joe Joyce could move a little bit, whether it was slow or not. This guy, Trevor Bryan, he jabs on the spot, and his jab's beautiful to watch, but you need to move. And if you're not, big guy like Daniel Dubois is going to take your head off. So, I can see where you're coming from. I agree.
Cool. No, enjoying the chat, lads. Enjoying the insights. Really good stuff. I think on a separate note, if Daniel Dubois does come through on Saturday, looking forward to kind of what's next for him, because I think he's still got a lot to give in the heavyweight division. I think he's going to be a real threat in years to come. Cool. That's all for now. Yeah, really appreciate it. Got the Sky Boxer show on Saturday night to look forward to, and another couple of under the radar fights. Yeah, including Daniel Dubois versus Trevor Bryan, which is on BT Sport in the early hours. But yeah, gents, thanks for your time, and we'll speak to both of you next week. Okay.
Thanks, guys.